Good evening and welcome to Political Lens on Voice of the People VOP Television. Now we are broadcasting on Metro SLTV channel 202. I am Chukwuma Okoro and today we'll look at FCT Minister Nyesom Wike hosts suspended Rivers lawmakers in London amid plans by IBAS, that's the sole administrator, to appoint local government council caretakers, as well as a clinical review of day 2 of the Take It Back movement protest. Oh, well, let's bring in our guest. We are joined by Mr. Dele Fanimo. Now, Fanimo is a seasoned reporter, accomplished journalist, and seasoned administrator. He had a very fruitful stint at the Guardian newspaper, served as the general manager, Southwest of Authority newspaper, as well as former managing director of Leadership Group of Newspapers. Good evening, Dele Fanimo, and welcome to Political.
Always my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Now, let's get into it. The Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, on Monday held a meeting with the suspended members of the Rivers State House of Assembly and hosted them to a dinner in faraway United Kingdom, following an earlier gathering with some of his political allies in Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State, on Sunday. Well, the meeting was disclosed by the minister's special aide, Larry Olayinka, via his Facebook page. According to Olayinka, yesterday the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike hosted Rivers State House of Assembly members who are in the United Kingdom for legislative capacity building to a dinner. Wike left Nigeria on Sunday night after visiting his political friends and associates in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Well, recall that lawmakers were suspended by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu after declaring a state of emergency in Rivers State due to security concerns. Governor Sim Fubara was also suspended for 6 months. Now, the emergency rule stemmed from ongoing political crisis between Wike and Fubara. The crisis had affected the lawmakers and the entire political structure in Rivers State. Oh, well, the Supreme Court later intervened, ordering the reinstatement of the lawmakers and directing Governor Fubara to represent the 2025 budget before the Martins Amewule-led Assembly. However, Fubara's attempt to represent the budget was thwarted as the lawmakers barred him from accessing the Assembly complex. Well, the suspended lawmakers are currently in the UK for a legislative capacity building program. Now to the main story. The Yoruba State Coordinator of the Take It Back movement, TIB, Abubakar Jawa, was arrested by security agents yesterday while converging ahead of planned protest demanding the immediate repeal of the controversial Cybercrime Act. Jawa was arrested alongside 4 others, Mohammed Kayeri Adam, Suleiman A. Gambo, Maimuna Abba, and Abubakar Jawa. While the specific reasons for their arrest remain unclear, the police have, however, denied the arrest. The State Police Public Relations Officer, Dungus Abdul Karim, denied the arrest of any protester or TIB movement members by the police. And in another development, the people of Rivers State are still grappling with the idea of the appointment of local government council caretaker. Well, a group, the Rivers for Emancipation Movement, last week vowed to take to the streets if the sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, appoints administrators to take charge of the 23 local government areas of the state. Information filtered through that Ibas, who President Bola Tinubu appointed on March 18, 2025, as the sole administrator after suspending Governor Simeon Fubara and the lawmakers, may appoint administrators to the councils anytime soon. Sources say that Ibas may announce the council administrators anytime, barring any last-minute change. The sources also said names of supposed administrators had been compiled, most of whom alleged were those not in the political camp of the suspended governor. Dele, you've heard everything. Now let's start from, what's your reaction to the fact that the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike hosted suspended Rivers lawmakers to a dinner in faraway United Kingdom? By the way, the lawmakers are in UK for a legislative capacity building program. Dele, how did we get to this point? Suspended lawmakers attending legislative capacity building in faraway United Kingdom. On whose funds, on whose account?
One of these reggae icons sang a song. The lyric was, "There are more questions than answers." And this is a classical example of many questions, no answers. The first question you ask yourself is, to what end is this legislative capacity building outside the shores of Nigeria? One, are we bereft of, we are not even running a parliamentary system of government. We are running a presidential system of government. So why UK in the first instance? That's one. Two, who sponsored these people that had been left in the cooler in the last 1.5 years? They were out of these chambers of the assembly for close to 1 year, and now they are spending another 6 months away from the hallowed chambers of Rivers State House of Assembly. Where is this money for sponsorship coming from? Ticketing alone, and you will be surprised that these people are not going to fly economy. They would rather fly first class or business class. Now, to fly economy today in some of the airlines, if you want to buy two-way ticket, you are spending close to 4 million naira on economy. So now imagine if you are flying business class, that could go as much as 13 million naira return ticket. And if you are flying first class, it's also much higher than that. Now, who is providing this without any iota of doubt? Let us put it as 4 million naira times 27. That gives you close to about 100 million or more.
100 million naira or more.
Or more. We're talking of
excluding
about... no, I'm just saying ticketing alone.
Ticketing.
Now, you're also talking about accommodation. These guys are not going to spend their time in any inn in UK. It's not going to layover or anywhere. The minimum they will go for is probably a 3-star hotel. At a 3-star hotel, a night hovers between 150 and 250 pounds. Convert 250 pounds to naira. And they are going to spend close to 2 weeks. In fact, some of them would rather stay and enjoy the rest of his first vacation in UK and on expense. It is either they are telling the world that they are stealing so much while in office briefly before they were kicked out, or there is a sponsor somewhere. And I want to say here that it's not going to be beyond or beneath the FCT minister. We have seen him sponsoring so many things, using his supposed personal resources, which of course couldn't have been personal resources, because if you go by the fact that this man was not doing any job that is tangible, was tangible enough to save this stupendous wealth before he came into government as local government chairman, as chief of staff, as minister, and governor. Now back as minister. So for the 26 years of democracy in this country, this man had been in government for close to 25 out of the 26. So whatever wealth that is in his custody now could not have been wealth he amassed before he became a state actor. So if he's traced to have sponsored these people, it also shows the kind of problem Rivers has.
Okay, now look, even before, aside from the funding of it, this trip, legislative capacity building, is it a pointer to the fact that there might be some kind of arrangement behind, for these people to come back after the suspension, for them to do needful?
No,
with regard to the intention, their intentions.
Impeach.
Yes, with regard to their intentions to impeach. Because this capacity building program, legislative capacity building program, to what essence? Since they are on suspension.
That was the first question I asked you. I said, to what essence is this new capacity building craving? Is it to perfect the art of impeachment? Or what gains is Rivers going to benefit from this capacity building?
Does that provide a lead? And does it provide a lead to what we might see?
There is every likelihood.
Okay.
There is every likelihood that on or before the expiration of the 6 months, these people will be recalled.
Okay.
And by the time these people are recalled, there would have been a kind of truce, quote and unquote, that would compel the governor to resume and resign before he's impeached, so that his record will not be blemished against any future political endeavor. And the legislators will be back on seat, and then they would have shopped for a replacement for the governor, while Amewule will be acting governor pending when they will call for election. These are probable arrangements.
Okay, how much of what is going on should be a concern to the Rivers people? And you think there's anything they can do to push back this kind of infamy?
You see, right now, if anybody is talking outside of this, that person is just making allusion to the fact that is his own wishful thinking, not what is going to happen. The day emergency was declared in Rivers State was the day technically any law governing any other space in this country, which is the Constitution, has been kept in abeyance.
We'll come to that. My concern now is, how much of this should be a concern to the Rivers person? I mean the trip by the legislators to UK and the fact that they are being sponsored by their former governor, who, by the way, like you just analyzed, who has been a state actor for the past 25 years in government. What do you think that Rivers people can do to say, look, enough of this is enough? Where is all this money coming from?
It's quite instructive now that you recall the press conference addressed by the former HOS, head of service of Rivers State,
Wike,
where he mentioned that only 13 billion out of 28 billion that was generated monthly internally in Rivers State was declared to members of the public of Rivers State. And for somebody that spent 8 years, imagine 15 billion naira every month not declared. Of course, any money that is not declared would likely end up in private pockets. So you can now understand and locate the deep pocket of this person that we're talking about, which means, if not all, part of this money that were not declared for a period of 8 years were probably going into certain people's pockets to oil this. So it is convenient for this state actor to spend 50 billion to resuscitate PDP when it was in throes of coma. And PDP is reeling out of this crisis and has not been able to wriggle its way out of that crisis, because no person, even when their war chest is as big as that of Wike, is ready to surrender such humongous amount to fund the party. And that's why they cannot deal with Wike in PDP till today and till tomorrow. So, to your question, the implication for Rivers people, the implication is clear. Now there is present danger. The revelation of the HOS is enough for Rivers people to come back to their senses and begin to interrogate how resources that were meant to better the lots of Riverians now going into private pockets. You know what 15 billion can do in a month
for a people.
For a people. No matter the terrible terrain of Rivers, 15 billion will construct effectively at least 20 kilometers road.
You can also build a standard world-class general hospital.
If you say 15 billion is not enough to build a world-class hospital, but 15 million in 6 months will build 2 world-class hospitals equipped with state-of-the-art modern technology. So now imagine that kind of money going into certain pockets for 8 years. 15 billion in 12 months. That's about 180 billion. 180 times 8, you are talking of about 1.3 trillion naira from just one source. Out of oil companies, IOCs, they pay royalties to Rivers State government for exploiting mineral resources from them.
Yes.
There are other sources of income that comes to Rivers State. 13% derivation is high for Rivers State because oil well, either littoral, either offshore or onshore, resides more in Akwa Ibom and Rivers State, and then Bayelsa. Now, IGR, royalty, 13% derivation, and then the federal allocation proper, which has put Rivers among the first 6 states that get highest amount of federal allocation every month. Then VAT. These are about 7 sources of income that comes to Rivers State on monthly basis, and none of this income comes in millions. They come in billions, tens of billions. So on the average, Rivers State accumulates close to 120 to 150 billion every month. And what have we been able to show for this humongous amount of money that comes to Rivers State every month? And what we have been able to see is what we are seeing. If you go to Port Harcourt Airport, you will see aircrafts, not helicopter, aircraft of ex-governors littering the whole tarmac, including the current. The only person that I'm not too sure if he has added his own fleet to that at that airport is the current suspended governor. Maybe because he has not really sat down to also build his own war chest to the extent of buying aircraft. So these people, even Amechi was PRO to all the least private hospital.
Okay, yes, before he became speaker of the House of Assembly.
You know.
Oh, well, thanks very much for this fantastic expose that you have done. And I hope that the people of Rivers State are watching and they also understand what is going on in their state. Now, let's get into the major topic of discussion today, which is today is day 2 of the protest organized by Take It Back movement. And we don't seem to have any momentum at all compared with the zeal of yesterday. Now, does it look like it has fizzled out like the ones before it? You see, the protest. Yesterday we had pockets of protests in Abuja, in Lagos, parts of the north, Lagos, Rivers, Oyo, Osun, you know. But today, I think looks like everybody's gone back to his normal business.
You see.
So is it fizzled out, or did you expect that to happen?
You see, the point is, when you continue to do something and you expect results, and the responses you are getting is not what you expect, there's a point you get to that you get tired of repeating the same process.
Okay.
And that is what, there is this fatigue, protest fatigue, that is creeping into the system. And why is it so? Who are the arrowheads of these pockets of protests across the states? They are not known activists.
Okay.
They are not known activists that have culture of putting pressure on government. These are people that they don't have the pedigree of starting unionism right from school days, taking it out there and aligning with civil society organizations. There are some people in this country that no matter how highly placed they are, look at Femi Falana. Femi Falana has a pedigree of being an activist right from his school days. Look at the likes of Owe Ilakefa. Look at the likes of John Oda. These are people that have pedigree, that you can trace them back to those days when they were universities. They are either student union president or the speaker of the Student Representative Council and all that. And they had already imbibed that culture. And also, if you look at them closely, even in spite of Femi Falana's achievement as a foremost lawyer in this country, you will see that austere look in him. You will see that leftist attitude in him. You understand? Yes. So, but today, where you have student union president having a fleet of 15 cars in his convoy when he's moving out of campus or coming into the campus with siren. Some even have outriders in front of them. Students. And they have special, that was a particular one in the north that had over 26 aides, special advisors, special assistants.
Okay.
While in campus, as students who is supposed to pay school fee, even contesting number of cars in his convoy with that of the VC and all the principal officers in the university. So how can that person go into trench? That person, the moment he begins to hear that there's going to be an arrest, he will consider his comfort. The Ransom Kutis of this world, Beko, the Chima Obani of this world, yes, they never considered being put in prison, and they went in and out of prison. Ganifa Emi, he was not bothered about being kept behind bars. He was focused on what he wanted for Nigeria and what he wanted for Nigerians. But that colony is dead today.
Okay. Before we get into that, because I was coming to the decline in activism. Now, did you anticipate that the protest, was going to make any impact, given the penchant of this administration to clamp down on dissenting voices? We have seen it run through the past 18 months or the past 22 months or so. Journalists are on the run. Nobody is speaking again. When somebody like P2B talks, they take him to the cleaners. You have crossed the line. When Atiku Abubakar makes a statement, they remind him that, look, this is what you did when you were president. When Obasanjo says anything, they attack him and all of that. President Jonathan, they attack him. So did you anticipate that this protest will make any impact, or that the government will even allow it to run in the first place?
You see, one thing that is clear about all these things is the fact that why would you expect that you are going to a lion's den, you are not armed, and you want to come out unscathed? If these people are expecting that these people, the people in government, they have turned to a pastor or imam that will just pat them in the back, then they don't know what they are doing. They know, and they should expect. That's why I said activism is inbuilt in you, not you just acquire it one day. And you said, for instance, as I'm seated here now, I cannot do activism because I love life. I don't want to be kept behind bars because I've not experienced it in the past. So is it at this age that I want to be clamped in the same cell with hardened criminals?
Okay, so as a journalist, you didn't do any form of activism, even if it is with your pen.
I did with my pen.
Okay.
I did with my pen. I did with joining them in the trenches.
Have you ever been picked up? Were you ever picked up in the course of your career by the security agencies?
I was picked up once.
Okay,
but I had to do clever wiring.
Okay.
To be let off the hook.
Okay.
The second time.
At what point was that?
It was in the Guardian.
Okay, in the Guardian.
The second time they came for me.
Okay.
But I outsmarted them. How did I outsmart them? How could you come to say you want to visit me as my friend, and you are asking, please, I'm looking for Delhi, from Delhi. So immediately I saw that this man was asking about me from me. I knew that,
know the man.
And he was in suit to tell me that
the kind of
what you are wearing now.
Okay.
Immediately I just sensed that this must be a security man looking for Delhi. And what brought about that?
Probably with his
pistol hidden under his jacket. And I knew that I had committed one harakiri a week to that time.
Okay.
Because just about the time they wanted to cede unity schools to private hands, with some people planning to demolish King's College in Lagos to become a five-star hotel.
Acquire the property.
You understand?
I recall. Yes. I recall.
So the day they will have that plenary in the floor of the National Assembly was the day I wrote 2 pages detailing why they shouldn't sell unity schools. And some feathers were ruffled. To the extent of even Obasanjo was not happy about it, because the union leaders provided me with all the information in black and white on how they took this proposal to Obasanjo first time. Obasanjo declined, and then they now couched it. You know, these technocrats, that's why I call them evil servant, not civil servant. They coined it around again and made it look presentable to Obasanjo. But Obasanjo was not even convinced at the second time. He just wrote, he minuted to somebody and said, he minuted it to Obi Ezekwesili as education minister.
Okay.
So, and said, this appears unsellable, but let's push it further and see the reactions of people. And he signed it and wrote OO, which is Olusegun Obasanjo, in red. I went to town, quoting from it, so I knew that they would come for me. So as soon as the man asked me, he said, I'm looking for Dele. I said, which gate did you come in through? He said, this gate. Dele just stepped out of this premises. In fact, he's on his way to the island now. He quickly rushed, and by the time he was rushing, I was already out this way, and I escaped. I didn't come back to the office.
Okay, beyond that, were you at any other time critical of government? Or what kind of support?
How could you practice journalism at my level as news editor, as features editor, as editor, MD or general manager, that you will not be
critical of government?
As a matter of fact, you can't be a features editor worth your salt without injuring, because everything you write in the newspaper, if you are praising Chukwuma Okoro, you are injuring the interest of Dele Fanimo. So it's a two-way thing. So there's no way you will not be in constant trouble with people.
But beyond that, were you at any point in giving some form of support to activists by spotlighting and highlighting?
There was no way as labor correspondent. In fact, I was almost sad when we went on strike in The Guardian, because they said I was the one providing opportunities and information for labor leaders, including Oshiomhole, to come and picket The Guardian and shut down The Guardian. Because you are always at the center of the storm. I've covered events in this country that even while they were with SGF holding meetings, somebody among these labor leaders will put his phone on, and I'll be recording proceedings right here in Lagos. And so when I'm coming out the following day, I'll be quoting verbatim as if I was in that meeting. You think government will be comfortable with such arrangements?
Okay. Now, can you offer any explanation, for the decline in activism compared with the vibrancy we experienced during the military era? I mean, we had the likes of Ayo Obe, Yinka Odumakin, Olisa Bakoba, Beko Ransom, the father of them all,
and all that.
Ganifa Wimi, Chimobani, Clement Nwankwo, and others. Why don't we have a new breed of activists that could drive the process of engaging the government in constructive and meaningful dialogue? People, why won't we have?
I'm going to tell you this.
Why is there a scarcity of that breed of,
I will tell you,
patriots?
Number one, the incubator is the universities and polytechnics. And when values are eroded at that level, you can't hatch a chicken and you expect that chicken to transform to a hawk or eagle. It's not possible. I'll just give you an example now. Beko Ransom Kuti was from an influential family. While his brother was in government as Minister of Health, Olikoye Ransom Kuti, Beko was breathing down the neck of the military as a sibling to a sitting Minister of Health. Now, nobody located any of these activists against their ethnic background. If Beko is talking, Chima is talking, this man, Rafsanjani in the north, if they are talking, they are seeing all of them as activists. Not that it is because this man is Igbo, that's why he's saying this. It's because this man is Yoruba, that's why he's saying it. Now, at that time, we had a common enemy, which was the military. Either Hausa, either Fulani, either Yoruba, either Igbo. Anybody in uniform was our enemy. And so there was no ethnic divide. But what do you have today? if Igbo
So
man,
at what point did we lose it? At what point did we
you
lose
see,
it?
at the point we lost it was when who gets what became an issue in Nigeria because of that ethnic cleavages. Because some of our leaders would rather do certain things. For instance, in your state now, there are 3 senatorial districts. The expectation in your state from these 3 senatorial districts is whoever is the governor panders more to his constituency, the senatorial district.
Okay.
And so the other person from the other 2 senatorial districts will now be nursing that ambition that let it be our turn next. For instance, if the current governor is from the north, then Central will be angling that, yes, let's wait, let him do what he wants to do. The moment the man from the north steps down from that office and the man from the Central comes in, that thing is automatically transferred to Central for the 4 or 8 years that person is going to spend. And as a matter of fact, to make sure that he has something to show, he will first discontinue or destroy the legacies of the man from the north that ruled before him, while the one from the south is also waiting in the wings. So that was how the whole thing started, to the extent that now Peter Obi is seen as Easterner.
Okay.
Tinubu is seen as Westerner. Buhari as Northerner.
Now, does it appear that the military was better in redistributing resources?
The resources
than the civilians?
Because the whole country.
Meanwhile, this is a democracy.
The whole country
and we're
was
having this kind of fault lines, widening day by day.
You see, in the military, hierarchy of order is bottom up approach.
Okay.
And along this line, they maintain some semblance of balance.
Okay.
In the Supreme Military Council or Armed Forces Ruling Council or whatever name they call it, there is a balance of membership. Where you have the president as Northerner, they will take a Southerner as vice president. They call them chief of general staff. And then the ministers come from almost all the geopolitical zones. So there's a semblance of balance. So, and the military man that is governor of your state probably didn't come from your state in the first instance. So he doesn't have anybody to influence him to say, now that you are governor of Abia State, you are from so area, you must do something. We need more than 10 boreholes. Forget about people if they have their own governor. But it wasn't like that. Most of these governors came from other states apart from the state they were assigned to govern. So it was posting to those states, and so they are blind to ethnicity, they are blind to cleavages that could rupture whatever good thing they wanted to do. But here, we have democracy. The governor must come from that state. No governor comes from outside of that state. And then the commissioners must come from the constituents.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of these cleavages. Obasanjo made an attempt to own the whole thing. Yar'Adua came, and Yar'Adua, for the period he spent before he died, made sure that he created a semblance of balance.
Okay.
Jonathan came. In fact, Jonathan even pandered to the north more than the south, just to curry favors and probably expecting that they would
a second term.
They would give him turn the second term. But unfortunately, as soon as Buhari came, he was brazen about it, and nobody could challenge him. Everywhere was, as a matter of fact, the uniform in Abuja then was Babariga. You can't get to any office without wearing those kind of dresses, because you are already profiled as anti our government.
Okay.
Now Tinubu came, and unfortunately, against the run of what we expect him to do, told this same line that some of us are not even proud of what he is doing in government today, because there are issues that will come up in a gathering and they will be saying it. I cannot defend certain things. You understand? Yes. And so my fear now is if another ethnic person comes is likely to do worse than what is currently going on. And we are on daily basis being fragmented along religious and ethnic lines. And you can't build a nation.
I mean, there's no way you can build a nation
along those fault lines.
Those fault lines.
And it's quite unfortunate.
Quite unfortunate. Now, we are running out of time, so let's go back to Rivers State. Let's go back to Rivers State, where there is still palpable fear about the state of emergency and its consequences. Now, let us understand the full meaning of state of emergency, the implications and consequences, because it looks like a lot of people still don't understand the meaning of state of emergency. So they think that it is just something that the president declared off the hook, and I mean, so can you help us understand, can you help the viewer understand the full implication and the consequences of a state of emergency being declared in a state, and especially the removal of the governor and the suspension of the legislature?
You see, state of emergency is like the federal government declaring martial law. The moment you declare a state of emergency in the state, constitutional provisions, the laws promulgated by the legislators, the bills that had been assented by the governors, previously, not even the current governor that was suspended, is automatically suspended. Nobody can use the instrumentality of those laws to administer the state anymore. The only reason why people still delude themselves that constitution still prevails in Rivers State is because there is no chaos. If anything happens in Rivers State that would upset the security of Rivers State today, you will see that almost half of the military in Nigeria today will be present in Rivers State in the next 2-3 hours. I think
they already have 10,000 soldiers deployed to Rivers State.
That's just a child's play compared to if there is any crisis in Rivers State now. The sole administrator of Rivers State has the power to call for reinforcement at any time. It doesn't need any parliamentary support. It doesn't need anything to administer that state. That state, that's why they call him sole administrator. It's like there is a military government in Rivers State today.
People are quarreling with the fact that Nigeria is a democracy. Meanwhile, in parts of Rivers State, there looks like you said, a military government.
It's a military government because this man does not have any recourse to go to anywhere to get approval on how he governs the state in the next 6 months.
No, he can go. If he wants to make new laws, he goes to the National Assembly.
He doesn't need a law. He doesn't need a law. He doesn't. He administers that state according to his whims and caprices. Because there is no law that inhibits him from taking decisions. That's why he is empowered to appoint local government caretaker.
Exactly the point. About a fortnight ago, a group raised alarm that they raised concerns that the administrator was planning to appoint caretaker for local government councils. Now, are there lines anyway that says that the sole administrator cannot appoint people to help him administer the state?
Look, this man has the right to appoint chief of staff, has the right to appoint HOS, which he has done. He has the right to appoint administrators that he can name sole administrator of local governments or caretaker committee or caretaker member, one-man member to administer local government. And everybody in that state that is holding political office reports directly to him. and not to the House of Assembly that is not even in existence now. And as long as there is state of emergency in that state, this man determines what goes on in that state, regardless of whatever. No court will entertain any constitutional breach that anybody sues him for, as long as he remains the sole administrator of that state. So that is why a lot of people, they rather run away from allowing state of emergency to be declared in their state, because everything that has to do with constitution is held in abeyance.
Okay, so in essence, shouldn't the people of Rivers be grateful? Shouldn't they be magnanimous that this man, who is more like you have described, is more like an emperor?
Is an emperor.
That is even asking for help from people. Of course, he's looking to appoint Rivers people as caretaker chairman of local government. But people are kicking against it, resorting, or still talking about what they consider the illegality of the state of emergency.
If you want to challenge illegality, you're not going to use your fist to challenge it. Let them go to court and hear what the court will do. At the first instance of appearance, they will throw out the case, because Rivers State is not governed by the Constitution of Nigeria until when that emergency...
Okay, you mean to challenge the appointment, or?
To challenge whatever decision the man has taken.
Okay, but people can challenge the declaration of the state of emergency.
Well, you can challenge.
Okay.
But as long as that thing is not removed, that canopy of emergency is not removed from Rivers State, IBOC is the sole administrator, and he determines if he says a particular place is giving problems and they need to go and challenge them using military might. He doesn't need anybody's approval in Rivers State to go there.
Now, people,
and that is why go and check in history. You hardly can find anybody below the rank of a major general that will be made a sole administrator, because they expect him to have that military high command structure that he has worked with, such that he will not have any reason not to understand why, as a major general, because this man that is there now, as vice admiral, his rank when he was chief of naval staff was equivalent to lieutenant general in the army.
Okay.
Because all service chiefs are lieutenant general rank. That's why you have air marshal as the chief of air staff. You have vice admiral as chief of naval staff, and you have lieutenant general. In fact, if you are appointed as a chief of staff, that day you are already carrying lieutenant general rank.
Okay, some people have said that, look, that the president asked this man to go and keep the peace in Rivers. Meanwhile, there was no violence. So what peace is he keeping? And that Rivers State is as calm as whatever. So what was the essence of the declaration of the state of emergency? Because the pipeline that was blown up was repaired in less than 24 hours. So what is the essence of the state of emergency? People are asking that question.
You see, that question would continue to be a rhetorical question, so long as we are not private to the security report that was submitted to the table of the president before he took that decision. It is only when we have an inkling into what went into that security report, that's when we can now begin to. Any other thing apart from that is mere speculation. Okay,
now we are running out of time. Let's talk about his proposal. That is ABAS now, to come up with a fresh budget. And the alarm raised by the National Assembly about, him usurping the powers of the National Assembly, which, by the way, ratified the state of emergency. So why are they crying foul now? Like, look, you cannot make new laws and all of that. Are they scared that it's going to usurp their powers?
When you talk about National Assembly.
And by the way, I'd like for you to add, people in Rivers State, do they expect the administrator to run without a budget?
That's what you see. One, it is within the purview of the to come up with a budget, and it's just been transparent for people to know that, look, I've not come here to embezzle money. Without budget, he can spend.
He's spending.
And he's still spending. But he wants to be as transparent as possible. That's why he's even proposing a budget.
People kicking against it.
And because they don't know. They don't know.
Lawyers don't know because lawyers are saying, look, it's illegal. You cannot do that. You are not authorized by law to run a budget because there's already a subsisting budget for River State.
Chukuma, let's talk about this thing. Is it that every journalist is up to your level? There are some journalists that you ask yourself if this person ever practiced journalism. From his comportment, the question he will ask, his responses, you see how shallow that person is. So it's not all lawyers that are fantastic lawyers, and it's not all journalists that are fantastic journalists. We have seen killer doctors here in Nigeria, certificated killer doctors. And I've encountered about 2 or 3 that almost ruined my health. So don't let us come here and begin to do that blanket statement that whoever is a lawyer is above every other person. A lawyer should know that the day they announced that emergency, that canopy that governs the nation, that ground norm, which is the 1999 Constitution as amended, has left Rivers State until when it is brought back. And that's why the National Assembly gave nod to the president by approving that the sole administration should remain there. So they have surrendered and they have removed the rug of the Constitution off the feet of the Rivers people until it is brought back.
Until it is brought back. Oh, well, this is where we have to drop anchor on Political Lens. Big thanks to you, Dele Fanimo, reporter and former managing director of leadership groups of newspapers. Thanks for coming to Political Lens. We appreciate your presence. I hope to have you some other time in the near future. All right, then. I am Chukwu Marco, and up next is Issues with Jerry Apollo High. Bye for now and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Culture and traditions of Nigeria may have passed through the test and threats of colonization. While some faded away with modernization, others stood the test of time and became symbols of tourism and research. One of those communities which has its cultures defying westernization is the Ohafia people of Abia State in southeastern Nigeria. Tucked away in the heart of Abia State is Ohafia. Ohafia is a clan as well as a local government area in Abia State, Nigeria. It is an administrative jurisdiction assigned by the Nigerian government which covers the entire Ohafia villages and other clans such as Abiriba, Asaka, and Nkporo. Amoma, with its administrative headquarters at Ebim, Ohafia. The ancestral capital of Ohafia clan is the centrally located village of Elu. Reports say Ohafia founders migrated from Isieke, Ibeko in Umuahia North local government area of Abia State, Nigeria. Ohafia is one of the mercenaries Arochukwu used in hunting for slaves all over Igbo land and as far as Igala land. The popular war dance, performed in several parts of eastern Nigeria, has its roots from Ohafia. It boasts of rich fertile lands for agriculture and other cultural practices. One mystery that has stayed away from the public is the story of the mysterious and ancient Amuma village, a small community in Ohafia. Entry into the small community showed tarred but deserted roads as it was due to the sit-at-home order of the Biafran loyalists in the southeastern part of Nigeria. At the palace of Eziogo of the community, who is also the head of the Eziogo of Ohafia villages, some elders had been summoned for a meeting towards ensuring a good farming season and development of the community, especially as its rich tourism potentials.
Myself. Kasagi.
Nawo na do.
Una pa pere.